My name is Vartan Manukian and I'm a practicing paralegal in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. If you're new to my channel, I thank you for joining and don't forget to click the subscribe button below and turn on that notification icon. Now imagine this. You're a passenger in a vehicle that is pulled over by a police officer. It's a sobering moment for everyone in the vehicle. After what seems like an eternity, two police officers approach from behind, one on the driver's side, the other on the passenger side. You're seated in the front passenger seat. One of the officers starts speaking to you and asking questions. Do you have an obligation to answer? The same officer asks for you to identify yourself. Do you have to identify yourself? Well, if you stay with me, you will know by the end of this video the answer to these two questions. However, before we address the passenger, let's have a brief discussion about the driver. Driving is a privilege and regulated activity for important reasons. Section 216 of the Highway Traffic Act authorizes a police officer to randomly stop a vehicle to check the sobriety of the driver, mechanical fitness of the vehicle, and to make sure that the driver is properly licensed and has proof of insurance as well as the registration of the vehicle. There's nothing more, nothing less. Now, what can happen to you if you're stopped by a police officer while traveling in a vehicle as a passenger? Well, you're detained, and this detention is not improper because it results from the traffic stop. Depending on how events unfold, you may then either be arrested or even searched. When a vehicle is stopped, the police officer takes effective control over the vehicle and its occupants. While an officer has the right to ask you questions, you have no obligation to answer. Remember, the interaction between the officer and you is inherently intimidating, and there is a power imbalance. And the consequences of this power imbalance is made worse by your inexperience, lack of knowledge, and fear of the unknown. So another reason why you should not be speaking to a police officer. However, if you do decide to speak to the officer, you have to be civil. But this does not mean that you have to bear it all. As a general rule, a passenger cannot be subjected to general investigative questioning by an officer and is entitled to be left alone while the driver is being investigated. If a police officer has reasonable grounds to believe that you have committed an offense, such as not wearing a seatbelt, the officer can legally ask you to identify yourself, in which case you have to identify yourself. Police officers are limited in their ability to search a private vehicle. However, anything that is in plain view can be investigated. Anything outside plain view requires a search warrant. This includes the glove compartment, under the seat, as well as the trunk, and the purse or handbag that you're carrying. Remember, under no circumstance should you consent to being searched. If you're arrested, that's a different issue. Now let me tell you about two situations where an officer can lawfully ask you to identify yourself while you're a passenger in a vehicle. If the officer has reasonable and probable grounds to believe that alcohol is unlawfully being kept in the vehicle, he can, without a search warrant, enter the vehicle, search it, as well as any persons found in it. Section 32, subsection 5 of the Liquor License Act allows for this. For example, if during a traffic stop the officer observes an open bottle of liquor in your vehicle, or liquor that is readily available to you, it's tried to say that you should not be in a vehicle with an open bottle of liquor. But this is another reason, or now you know another reason not to. Another example of a search of your vehicle without a warrant is when an officer has reasonable and probable grounds to believe that there's cannabis in the vehicle. He can, without a warrant, enter the vehicle, search it, as well as any person found in it. As with liquor, cannabis must be in original packaging, unopened, or fastened in a baggage, or not readily available to the occupants of the vehicle. In the unlikely event that you're arrested, you have to identify yourself and you have to be truthful about that. Otherwise, you may be ticketed under the Highway Traffic Act, or worse, face a criminal code offense. So remember, in either of these two situations, the officer can search without a warrant the vehicle as well as any persons found in it. Now let me tell you about an interesting third scenario. Sometimes an officer will initiate a traffic stop because the officer has reasonable and probable grounds to believe that there is a radar detector device in the vehicle or the vehicle is equipped with one. Section 79, subsection 3 of the Ontario's Highway Traffic Act allows for this. However, in such a situation, the officer can only search the vehicle and not any person found in it. Therefore, during the investigation, you should not consent to be searched. However, in the unlikely event that you are searched and the police officer seizes a radar detector device from you, your paralegal may, in some circumstances, apply to the court to have it excluded from evidence at trial. Laws are necessary for the orderly functioning of society. However, the enforcement of laws must strike a balance between effective investigation on one hand and protecting you from the use of information obtained from you. I want to be clear that the purpose of this video is not to encourage non-cooperation with the police. Rather, it's intended to alert you of your rights. Those rights that we cherish so much, that we've worked so hard to achieve over the last 40 years, only to see them being gradually taken away from us. Just look at recent events that have dominated our lives. So remember, as a general rule, a passenger cannot be subjected to investigative questioning by an officer unless the passenger has committed an offense. The officer is not engaged in a lawful duty or execution of duty in demanding identification from the passenger. As impractical as it may sound, you are free to leave and not stay in the vehicle. Yes, and you can literally walk away, and don't forget to phone your paralegal right away. If you like this video, click on the like button and check out the next video in the series, The Myth Surrounding the Demerit Points for Ontario Drivers.